So a pleasant good morning to everyone. My name is Priscilla Liebert-Calder. I'm the event coordinator here at the NJSBDC at Rutgers-Newark. And so we're now into our second segment for today that's going to deal with government contracting and certifications. But before we get going, just a quick reset. I'll just introduce to you our director, Dr. Tendai Ndoro, to just briefly welcome you, and then we'll get into today's Q&A.
Thank you, Priscilla, and I want to welcome everybody to our second segment of SBDC Day today. And I also want to welcome our presenters for taking the time to speak with you and take your questions about procurement, whether you want to do procurement at a state level, at a municipal level, local government, at a federal level. We have two of the most knowledgeable experts that you could ask any question and you would get the answer. They are also part of our consulting team, and they do our workshops and they do one-on-one counseling. And really, as a small business, if you want to grow, you have to get eventually into procurement. And I just want to say that with Salam Ice Cream Parlor, we were working with them on the Robert Hood Johnson project, and now they were registered as a result of their certification in the to do business with Beth Israel Hospital, because they are in the anchor area of that hospital, and they will be tapped into to see if they can supply their ice cream and desserts to the hospital. And that's how you grow a business. So I want to welcome Monica and Jeannie, and two wonderful, wonderful people that you could ever work with, to our SBDC Day.
Okay, awesome. So I guess there's no introduction. Let's get our our consultants introduce themselves. Let's start off with Monica.
Hi, my name is Monica Randall. I'm the CEO of the Randall Group. We provide consulting to small businesses in a variety of different areas, but our primary focus is on packaging certifications, such as your 8A, your woman-owned small business, your veterans, your hub zone, GSA schedule. We also put together changes of ownership for those 8A firms that are looking to change their ownership, mentor proteges, JVs. We like to consider ourselves the one-stop shop of all things federal procurement. So we pretty much try to do everything, but we do not provide proposal writing services. That's the one service we do not provide currently. My proposal writer decided to retire after 35 years. And so if anyone out there is looking for a job as a proposal writer, please call me. So welcome to SBDC Day, and thank you for allowing me to participate.
Jeannie.
Okay, so first of all, welcome to SBDC Day. This is just so exciting to be able to work with Monica today on this. This is our first time being on a panel together. But it is just so exciting to be a part of this movement at the Rutgers-Newark SBDC. I am the certification guru for the state of New Jersey. I own a human resources and consulting firm. And certifications just really fell into my lap because Dr. Ndoro asked me if I would do it for them, and it has become a passion. I'm really focused on the certification side. I'm focused on the clients presenting a winning package. And it takes time, because so often, not only are we focusing on the package, but we're also focusing on the composition of their business and where their documents are. And that can take time. But I'm willing to put the time in because the clients are worth it. And I know what these certifications can do to increase their revenue, their publicity, their networking, their standing in their community. And it's all worth it when you can believe in your client. So again, I am so grateful to be here. The HR is still a love. And I also get to incorporate that when the businesses need some HR advice, the smallest of things. and the largest of things. And I think that's another benefit of being a part of this center, because you get to use all your talents. So welcome to SBDC Day.
Okay, great. Awesome. So for the participants that are with us today, this is a Q&A session. So please feel free as we proceed to ask your questions. Now you can do that in a number of ways. You can use the chat box. It's located at the bottom of your screen. You can type your question there. You can also use the Q&A feature, because sometimes your questions may get lost if we have a lot of questions coming in at one time. As well as you can raise your hand. So there's a little button at the bottom, right next to the chat box, that you can raise your hands. And if you click on that, it will know you want to ask a question and enable audio so you can do so live. So as we go on, please, we would love to get your questions. So I'm going to start off. There were some questions that were sent in to us. So I'll direct my first question to Jeannie. What documentations are needed to apply for certification? Now, they didn't say which ones,
Right.
so let's start off first by just giving an overview of what some of the certifications are: SBE, WBA, BE, MBE, and so forth.
Sure. So the documents really depend on your organizational organizational style, organization position. So for a sole proprietor, they require a limited amount of documentation. For a limited liability corporation or a partnership, the need and the requirements grow. And if you're a corporation, of all of the 13 documents that are asked on the application, you need 100% of them. At least you need to present them. And the major part is, for whatever your organization structure is, when you apply for an application, if the document isn't appropriate for you, say that. Don't leave it hanging. Just say it's not appropriate. So when you look at the documents that are required in general, think of the documents that you use to form your business. Anywhere to your certificate of formation, to your resume, to a lease, if that's where you fit in, or certifications that you've received in the past. The crucial documents that the state is looking for, and it also depends on whether you're submitting a hard copy application or an application online. They're not making this easy for you. That's why it's so great to come to a consultant, so you know exactly what you need in regards to the process that you're going to take. But it's from your business documents that you registered your business, to a document that talks about how you are and the services that you offer as a business owner, to a bank statement that says that you have a bona fide business banking account, because that is a requirement. And then down to a lease, or if you own the property that you registered the business in, you can use your mortgage statement. So it runs the gamut on what you need. But what I ask for my clients, regardless of their organizational structure, is every document that's required. Then I know the business is solvent and it's registered with the state of New Jersey. So that limits our liability from the application coming back. So I make it even harder for you. But when you leave me, you know that your business is in good shape.
Okay.
Hope that answered the question.
Yep. The follow-up here was based on the first one. So what certifications are available here in New Jersey?
Sure. For our state certifications, our signature certification is a Minority Woman Business Enterprise certification. And unfortunately, the state of New Jersey is not set aside for that certification, but we are set aside for the Small Business Enterprise registration. The beauty about that SBE is it requires no financial information. You just have to be registered in the state of New Jersey in good standing, and then it allows you to bid on contracts. The state also has a veteran-owned business registration and a disabled veteran-owned business registration, all of which we offer in our office.
Why is it important to have certifications?
I always look for what gives you the competitive edge as a business owner. It's great to have all the academic credentials if that's where you're going. But if you're going to really compete with someone who has everything you have, but you have the certification, you're going to be looked at a little differently, because what that certification allows someone who's interested in doing business with you, what it does is it says that you've been vetted and approved by the state of New Jersey. That says a lot. It says a lot. All the pain and suffering that you may go through to get it, when it's between you and a business that doesn't have it, who's ever interested in you is looking at the fact that you took the time to be certified. And that gives you a competitive edge.
Wonderful. Okay, so we have a question here. I think this one goes to Monica. It says, I am a new business. Am I eligible for federal contracting?
So not so much a certification question, but it's a question of, can I do business if I don't have a particular certification? The answer is yes. So there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of businesses out there that are doing business with the federal government with no certification whatsoever. So it's not a prerequisite. It's not that you have to hold a particular certification in order to do business. If you are a startup, your issue is not so much, I don't have a certification, it's I lack past performance. So to win a contract, you have to have past performance. Otherwise, your customer that you're looking to get the contract from is taking a risk on being the very first person to ever hire you. That's difficult. And yes, I know it's like a double-edged sword. Well, I'm a startup, I don't have business, but to get business, I have to already have business. How am I supposed to do that? You just got to keep grinding away. Partner up with other companies, do a prime sub type situation, try to maybe go after the smaller procurement opportunities, such as like with credit cards. A lot of government agencies have the ability to make very small purchases via credit cards. You need to go small initially, as well as partner up when you are a startup. But again, to go back to your original question, you do not require a certification in order to do business with the government. It's just that you would like to have it, based on what Jenny said, in addition to give your customers some type of contracting vehicle to be able to award the contract. When you have no certification, then that means I have no contracting vehicle. Therefore, I have to go full and open competition. That means I have to put it out for bid, read 100 proposals, and hopefully after all of that, I choose you at the end. You don't want to leave it to chance. So if you have a certification that puts you in a special box where your pool of competition is significantly reduced versus if you don't have one. So for you, it's a certification. For your customer, it's a contracting vehicle.
Okay. So for startups, what are some ways a startup can get into government contracting?
Pretty much you need to market. Like we like to say on the federal side, and that's where my 30 plus years of experiences lies. No relationship, no contract. So I, as a federal government contracting officer, am not willing to take the risk on you. You're just like a random person off the street asking me to award you a multi-million-dollar contract, and it's just not going to happen. We need to date a little bit first. We need to build a relationship. We need to, have some sort of trust between us. Maybe I'll throw you some smaller projects, see how you do. Maybe I'll get you to partner up with another prime that we already have doing work with. There are many creative things I need to do, but first and foremost, you need to build a relationship with me. I am new to you. You are new to me. You can't just come out the gate with, I'm a startup, I'm looking for work, can you help me? I call that the begging syndrome. That doesn't work. Again, you need to have a relationship. And I know we're in COVID right now, so being able to come into my office and sit down and have a conversation is not happening. But you can still virtually shake hands and kiss babies. And that's exactly what you're going to need to do. But just understand something. You're not the only game in town. There are hundreds of other businesses that do exactly what you do. I know in your mindset, you're the best. Only you do it the way that you do it. But at the end of the day, as the customer, I have choices. So I don't need to choose you. So you need to pitch me, to sell me, to build that relationship with me that says, why should I use you versus Dr. Tandai? If you can't answer that question, then I probably won't select you. So all of the work is on us as small businesses. We need to come up with how we're going to build that relationship, virtually shake those hands and kiss those babies on an ongoing basis. Don't reach out to me this month and then I don't hear from you again in 6 months. You can't build a relationship that way. You need to stay in front of me. So again, it's relationship driven.
Okay, so we have another question here. I think, Monica, it's a follow-up. It says, how about Sam?
So my assumption is that you mean sam.gov. So in order to do business with the federal government, every company must be registered in sam.gov. So if you are not registered in sam.gov, that means you have not been assigned a cage code. The only place where you can obtain a cage code is through sam.gov. So you must have an active profile in that database, and then you're considered to be registered as a federal government contractor. That's why you are registering. So I know some think, oh, I need to register to be a small business. Doesn't really quite go that way. It's if you want to do business with the federal government, I need you to have an active profile in SAM. If you do, the government's going to assign you a cage code. With that cage code, you can seek federal government work. Without it, you cannot. So again, that's very essential. If you're looking to do business with the federal government, you must have a SAM inactive. I can't stress that enough. You can have a SAM profile, but if it says inactive, it's as if you don't have one at all. So you need to make sure that it's in active status.
Okay, just to backtrack a little bit, there a participant is asking, what does SAM stand for?
You would ask me that. Now, you know, government is full of acronyms. So I think it's something like systems, system assistance management, something along those lines. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. I just need you to go to your internet. I need you to type into the web browser sam.gov, and then it'll probably come up for you. But this is federal government. Everything's an acronym. Don't care about, you know, what it stands for. As long as you know the acronym, you are good to go. But I know it's something like systems assistance.
It's system of award management.
There you go. Thank you, Dr. Tandai. I can give you every acronym in federal procurement, but when you ask me, what does that stand for? I go, it's FDA. That's pretty much it. So I apologize for not being able to remember that, but I never think about it. It's just sam.gov. I know I have to have a profile. It must be active. I can't do business without it. And that's enough for me.
I think sometimes because we work with all these acronyms, and we assume that everybody is just gonna get it. Exactly. And I find it sometimes frustrating when I'm in a new field and everybody's using acronym and I don't know what they're talking about, or they're using even like the word procurement. What does procurement mean? What does what type of doing business is that? And procurement is really getting contracts. It's another way to sell. It's a B2B classification, which means business to business. And in this case, the other business that you're doing business with is the public sector or the private sector, which is corporations that want to buy your services, and they give you a contract to provide the service or product. And so procurement is usually a B2B service and not a B2C, which is business to consumer. It's not retail. It's where you are actually selling to the direct consumer of the product or service. So
see, that's way too much to remember. So I want to focus on the word procurement. That's it. You know, just like that system awards management stuff. I'm not focusing. It's SAM.
Yes, I mean,
that's just too much, Dr. Tandai. I'm just saying.
I know, but sometimes we have to break it down so that people get informed, because we are information specialists, and they can then Google it, because we just talk about SAM.
Exactly.
SAM is there, and
but I appreciate you stepping in and giving me out of that one, because I was like at a loss for words. I was like, I know it's system. I think the last word is management. What's that A? Is it a is it what is it? I can't remember. So thank you for that. I
So
appreciate it.
that's why the SBDC is here, because we break it down.
Exactly. So thank you. Priscilla, I can't see you. Where you at?
Right here. Okay, so just a reminder to the participants, please feel free to post your questions in the chat. I have a few here, but we want to make sure that you don't leave today with any questions unanswered. So raise your hand, or if you don't want to type your questions, or just type it in the chat. So I have a question. I think this one goes to Ginny. I hope, because it's accent. What are some tips that you can offer a business when applying for a certification? And since we have federal and state certification, I'll ask the same question, but let's go with Ginny first.
Sure.
What are some
I
tips?
think one of the examples that Monica gave in terms of getting ready for federal procurement opportunities is you want to make sure that you know how to network your business. You want to make sure that you take the time to have a plan to reach your goal. So often businesses come in and they're like, I want to be certified. And I'm not saying you can't be certified, but I take them through a steps of, what do you want to do with your business? Where do you want to go with your business? And if they're a little ambivalent about answering that question, then we need to have some other conversations about, where is your business now? Is it a lifestyle business? Are you planning on making a lot of money? Are you planning on just chilling and working out of your car? And all of these are fine, because there are different models of businesses. But when you look to be certified, you want to make sure that your documents are in order. All of those documents that you used, that you completed rather, to register your business should be in a safe spot. Your business registration certificate, your certificate of formation, you should know where they are. Also, you should have your taxes available. One of the questions on the application is, do you have 3 years of taxes? Well, if you've only been in business 1 year, you can't give them 3 years of taxes. So then we have to look at the other option that the state is giving you, and that's your profit and loss statement and balance sheet. So many businesses haven't even heard of that terminology before. So then I have some idea about where their records may be. The tip is, get your business ready, because not only am I going over it, maybe even with more of a fine tune sometimes than the state, but the state is not going to give you an opportunity to answer some of these questions. If the application isn't completed, they just put it aside and send you an additional information letter. They're not going deep into the weeds to find out what the date of effective date of your business is. You have to complete every question on the application. And if it's not appropriate, then just put NN on the hard copy side, and then just indicate that it's not appropriate online. I mean, a best practice technique for anybody who is going to certify their business is, number one, to really look at why you're doing it. Number two, to make sure that you have to set aside the time, whether it's dark of night or early morning, to complete the codes. The codes are very important, because that's how a vendor identifies who they want to work with, because they work with the codes as well. So a best practice tip on that, in case that's a challenge for you, is think about the codes as you think about action words that describe your business, because you don't have to have all the codes, but if you know an action word, artistic, creative, medical, massage therapy, put those words into the search engine, and then you can get codes and start out from there. It's the overall best practice for anyone who wants to be certified is to really have control over your information. Whether it's I tell everybody, get a box to put your documents in. If you're not going to get a safe deposit box at your bank, have some kind of iron box in your house where a safe, I say safe, it could be a small box, but have a box in your house where you can keep your documents where they would not burn, because it's so difficult to replace those documents. So those are some of the best practices that I have for my businesses when they're starting out.
On the federal side, I'm going to take it a little deeper. So I do not believe in any business obtaining any type of certification unless you have first done some thorough market research to ensure that your customer utilizes that type of certification. I know we typically go, well, she has MBE, DBE, so I'm going to go for MBE, DBE, SBE, ACDBE, all these other, state type certifications, as well as I'm going to go, I'm going to get my woman on because we're woman on, but then you've done no homework. So this is the best practice. So before you go down the road of obtaining any type of certification, whether it's state or federal, you want to make sure that that is the type of certification that your customer utilizes. An example would be a young lady came to me and she says, I thank you for helping me with my woman-owned small business, meaning I just answered a few questions, but she had already started the process. She got it. Super excited. She was like, Monica, now can you show me how to find out whether or not the federal government actually awards contracts within this particular program, which is the federal WOSB program? Now, mind you, she should have done that before obtaining the certification. So we went into a system on the federal side. If you want to do some market research to see what federal customer actually awards contracts based on your primary NAICS code, your NAICS code. And when you conduct that research in USA Spending, it came back for her that no contracts for the past 5 years had been awarded under her primary code in that program. Not one contract. So now she went from excited to have this new certification to now finding out that her federal customer doesn't even utilize that certification to award contracts. What a waste of time that was. So as a best practice, please don't get caught up on wanting to put the logo on your website and stick it on your capability statement and note it on your LinkedIn profile that you have all these wonderful certifications. Did you first confirm that your customer utilizes those contracting vehicles? Because if they don't, then why obtain them? So that's the biggest best practice I can give you, is do not go down that rabbit hole of obtaining all these different certifications if you have not conducted research yet, first. And then the second best practice is when you start to apply for a certification, it's okay that you don't have everything lined up. Monica, I don't have meeting minutes. I'm a sole member LLC. I don't meet with myself. Like, that's a stupid requirement. Don't worry about it. When you're putting together a certification package, whether it's state or federal, if you're missing, this is a great opportunity for you to get things in order. Right. Whatever you didn't have, now you can create it. So by the time you're done submitting that certification application, you're now straight. You might not have been when you went down that road of putting together. It's okay. I mean, I'm a sole member LLC. I don't have meeting minutes. And I've been in business since 2011. I've never had a meeting with myself and sat down and created that on paper. But if I were to apply for woman-owned small business or for 8A, even the state, I might need to produce that. It's okay. I'll just create it. I'll backdate, and then everything will be in order from that day moving forward. So don't beat yourself up that when you go through these processes of filling out all these different applications that you don't have everything. Guess what? I don't either. I produce it when it's in front of me that I need to produce it. But once I do, then from that moment forward, now it's your fault if you don't maintain. But initially, you're probably not going to have everything. And as a best practice, it's okay. Use that application process as your time to get everything in order, and then make sure you do it right from that day forward. So those would probably be the two biggest ones for me, Priscilla.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so we do have another question here. I think this is for Ginny. What is the difference between a certification and a registration?
The registration really allows you to be registered with the specific agency. And for us, it's the SBE and the veteran-owned business and the DVOB. You're registered along with, because registrations are national for us. With the SBE, you're registered with those entities, so you can participate in a bidding process. Our certification is a little bit more muscle because it requires more documents and it gives you more leverage. You can use it. You can use it to promote your company in a better light. And vendors or people who are interested in doing business with you are looking for a certification because they know that they can also use that to promote their portfolio of businesses that they're using. So that's a clear distinction for us in the state of New Jersey, that the registration, SBE, will allow you to bid on a contract, and there's a set aside with the SBE in the state of New Jersey on state contracts, and the certifications give you a little bit more muscle because they ask for more information, and it's a distinction between women, minorities, and minority women. So that's the clear distinction.
Okay, great. So we have a follow-up question. How long does it take to get the certification? And so I'm guessing that will probably be either one, the SBE, the minority, the woman, or the veteran. How long does it take?
For the state right now, they're offering a program where you can get an SBE and an MWBE or an MBE at the same time, especially online, but you can get them both even if you submit a hard copy. And so often the length of time depends on the applicant, how long it takes you to get me your documents. Because it could be 2 weeks, it could be 3 weeks, or it could be a month or longer. But when we get into a month, then we have to look at some other things because we have to change some dates. But normally it takes, I'd say the max would be a month. And if you're in a position where you have a contract where somebody is willing to work with you and they need that MWBE, or it's more the MWBE than the SBE, I can fast track the application with the state. I can speak to the auditor and say, my client has a pending opportunity. Can we fast track that? And he'll do it.
Wonderful, wonderful. We have a question coming in from our Facebook live stream. Monica, this is a follow-up. Do I need to register yearly on beta.sam.gov? Your microphone, Monica.
Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, Priscilla. I was about to start. So pretty much beta, so there isn't a beta.sam. There is a beta.certify.sba.gov. I know, right? That's for the woman-owned small business and the economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business. Then you have sam.gov. That's where your company registration is. So you will receive once a year, every year from that system, which is what we spoke about earlier, to renew your existing profile. So that's an annual thing, but they will send you an email to say, hey, need you to log in with your user ID and password, take a look at the information you gave us a year ago and ensure that everything is still good to go. So when I receive that, and no information has changed, I still have to log in with my user ID and password, go to every single page and just keep hitting submit. Then when I get to the last page, I do the final submission and then SAM will accept that. So it doesn't force you to make a change annually. It just says, I want you to log in with your credentials and check every page out. And if nothing has changed, touch nothing. Just keep hitting submit, submit. But yes, on the sam.gov, there is an annual registration. For the beta, that is for the EDWSB program. All right. And then there's some other different types of databases out there as well. But if you're speaking of the woman-owned small business, that's not an annual registration. That is just simply you're submitting your application and then annually you'll need to update that. And again, SBA is really great about sending you reminders. So you don't need to worry about when is it going to happen. You will get an email letting you know it's time. All right. So hopefully that answers the question.
Good, wonderful. Now, for those that are on participating, Dr. Ndora kindly posted in the chat a link to the New Jersey Savvy list, the New Jersey Selective Assistance Vendor information. And this is equivalent to that of SAM. So if anyone wanted to take a look at that, the link is in the chat, or we'll try to repost it again, so you can take a look at. Diane asks, is there a handout that helps us to do that research? What Monica is mentioning is helpful. Diane, not only do we have a handout, we have a whole workshop called it's called Winning Public Federal Contracts, and we have that 3 times a year. And when we had this workshop in person, it wore you out. You were tired. You were exhausted by 4 o'clock. The amount of information that Monica provides, and even for every workshop that we have, there is a free webinar. And I can vouch for Monica. She sends a PDF. And when I saw the PDF from the workshop compared to the one for the webinar, I couldn't tell them apart. There's so much pages and pages. Her PowerPoint includes links to everything. Everything that she breaks down is on that. So if you have not already signed up, I think one is coming. Well, you just missed one, but one a workshop is coming up, if I'm not mistaken. If it's not next month, it's in May. I would suggest that you connect with us and register for that. But if you want some more information, you can always request counseling, and we'll connect you with Monica, and she'll be able to give you a handout or point out where you should start doing some of that research. Diane says, I don't see the chat. Diane, I'll for the links, what I'll do is you have registered for today. So everything shared today, we'll email a recap to all the participants. So if you're not seeing the chat, or if the link is not working, we'll make sure that you get the correct one. I see Dr. Dora trying to send that information out. Okay, so let's see. What other questions are coming in here? Jenny, does your business have to be earning revenue to apply for these certifications?
Yes, you do. That's one of the eligibility requirements. And what I find so interesting about that is that most of the clients think that it has to be tens of thousands of dollars. But when we have a conversation about how they're selling their product, they can see that they are generating revenue. So much is involved with educating the client on the need and how that need is transferred into their business. For instance, I have a client who was selling tea at her church, and she was she was making a lot of money selling the tea on Sundays at her church. As a matter of fact, it became part of her budget. She included it in her budget, her own personal budget. So when we were starting her business, I told her, this is revenue. You are generating revenue from your friends at church or your colleagues at church. And we included that in her overall revenue. But it was just selling her tea, making it for people at church who loved it. She really didn't look at it as revenue until it came down to put those numbers together. So in answer to the question, yes, you have to be generating revenue. And I also discuss with you what that revenue can look like. Because clients are generating revenue and they don't even realize that it's revenue. When you're selling your service, regardless of who it is, you're selling it and you're being paid for it, you're generating revenue.
Hey, Priscilla, can I answer that as well on the federal side?
Sure, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Right. So on the federal side, you have 5 federal certifications. So you have 8A, GSA schedule, woman-owned small business, veterans, and HubZone. Of those 5, only 2 require that you have revenue, and that's GSA and 8A. But for the woman-owned small business program, for the veterans program, for the HubZone program, you can be a startup. That is not a requirement that you have generated any revenue at all. Also, here in Maryland, for our MBE, DBE, SBE, and ACDBE. And I know someone's going to type into the chat box, what does all that mean? And guess what? I have the answer to all of that. So hit me with it if you want to. I didn't know the SAM thing, but I know the rest of it. All right. And so with those being said, with our MBE, DBE, SBE, ACDBE, which is our airport concessions, you don't need to have any revenue. So I'm not sure, again, I'm not in Jersey, so I'm not familiar with Jersey's certification program, but here in the state of Maryland, you could be a startup. The only two certifications that require your past performance, which equals revenue generation, is 8A and GSA. And on the state side, you can be a startup. I can start my business today. I can apply for MBE, DBE, SBE on Friday. Like literally, long as I have all my incorporation documentations, I could have no business tax returns, but just have my personal. Again, our program here, you can be a startup. So I make that statement to say it depends on the state. I know you all are in Jersey, but just keep in mind, if you're looking to get another type of state certification after you are approved for your home state, the requirements may be different, because if you swing my way, you don't need revenue. Just wanted to add that, Priscilla. Thank you.
Great. We have a question here from Diane. She asks, can we pay someone to do the paperwork for the certifications? And I think Dr. Dora also followed up that with an answer that the center offers certification services at no cost to businesses. That is the power or the advantage of using your local SBDC. So you only need to pay the state fee, which is the $100. And I think the state has also has consolidated. You can apply for more than one certification at one time. Is that correct, Jenny?
Yes, you can. There's a combination. The SBE and the MWBE, MBE, or WBE is $100 or the $5 fee for one or two. And with the veterans, sometimes they waive that as well. I would advise people who are interested in getting certified with the state of New Jersey, right? You really think about doing it before the end of the year, because I believe some changes are going to come down that are going to affect when you can certify your business. So with the clients that I have and ones that are interested, I really try to get them to excel their application, so that they're a part of the certification process, where if you get it now, it's good for 3 years. And you have to verify that nothing has changed or things have changed every year. And if you don't, you're kicked out of the system and you have to start all over again. And they send one email out. So I tell my clients, if you change email addresses, or if you send a hard copy in and it's on, and you've changed your business location, make sure you let the state know. Because if you miss that additional information document, they're very strict, rigid on allowing you on waiving that process for you. It's, if you miss it, you have to start all over again.
And also, I just want to reiterate that, because with the combined certifications now in New Jersey, you have to be also doing it, because I know somebody's going to say, well, they told me I could get the certifications and pay $100. Only if you're doing it at the same time. But if you complete just the SBE today and don't select to do the MWBE, next time you go in, it's another $100.
Absolutely.
So be very clear what we are meaning here. You have to be sitting down doing it all at once right now. And what the holdup is, and Jeannie can confirm this, is you go in to do it all at once and then you don't have your documentation. The question is, do you continue with just the SBE and pay $100? And then when you get the documentation for the MWBE, come in. At that point, it's 2 applications. So have all your documents together so that you pay that $100.
And also, if I could add something, sometimes clients are just ready for their SBE. They don't have their financials. They don't have all their documents together. And they may really be a new business. So I advise them to get their SBEs because at least you're in the pot. I advise them to get their SBE, to register with NJ Start, and we track what what opportunities they have on those platforms that they could bid on. And I've seen more activity with the SBEs in 2020, we're up in 2021, than I have before, where our SBEs are being contacted by vendors to participate on a bid. So sometimes they're not ready for the anchor certification, but it doesn't mean that they can't participate. But again, it's going to cost you a total of $210. So you got to budget that as well. But it's good to have the information.
Okay, great. Vanessa and Diane, both are interested. Great. So to reach out to us, you can give us a call, or like I said before, visit our website. It's right here on my backdrop. Go to www.rnsbdc.com and click that Get Counseling button at the top right-hand corner of our webpage, and put in your email and complete the form. There's an area there where it asks specific assistance needed. And in there, you can just indicate, I need help with my certification, whether it's SBE or whether it's federal. Depending on which one you indicate, we definitely would assign you to either Monica or to Ginny to follow up with you. And also plug in again. So we have two really, really great workshops. So Monica's, again, I did mention, winning public federal contracts, a full day workshop. She goes through the certification. Then better yet, she shows you how to leverage the certification, how to market to the federal government, the contacts that you need to meet, and how to go about that. There are exercises, how to find out if the government purchase your products and your services. And so and maybe how much they spent on it last year, and if they're projecting to spend on it this year. This is really good information that you'll find useful to help you in that area. As for Ginny's workshop is called NJ Certification and Private Contracting. So this workshop, again, Ginny will go through these certifications, what the criterias are, the documentations that you need. And actually, we also has featured on there the state auditor. I mean, who best to find out, to ask your questions than the ones who are actually approving and reviewing your application. And they actually we walk you through the new application portal online, where you are submitting these documentation. And if you think it's overwhelming, well, you have us. We will help you with that process. So reach out to us. Each of these workshops that I just mentioned, they do have a free webinar. So you can, and trust me, the information you get on the free webinar is a lot. So visit our website, click on the training tab, scroll through the list of events, and look for the next webinar under those names. The webinar and the workshops has the same name: Enter State Certification and Private Contracting and Winning Public Federal Contracts, and sign up. And if you're in a hurry, then just fill out the request for counseling. We definitely will also assign you a consultant to speak with you one-on-one. So we're at the end here. So any last words, Monica and Ginny, before we transition into the next segment?
I'll just briefly say, the government spends $500 billion in one fiscal year. So government fiscal year starts October 1 of every year, and it ends September 30th of every year. If you're participating today and you're like, well, I'm not sure if I want to do business with the federal government, I want you to sleep on it. That is $500 billion. Actually, they spend $1 trillion plus, but on just goods and services, which is what we here do, you want to strongly consider that. So if you do, just make sure everything within, as far as your infrastructure, everything is sound and you're set up. You can pull financial statements. The last thing you want is to win a federal government contract and not be prepared to manage it, to have the proper resources in place, to have the proper funding in place. With federal procurement, again, 500 billion. So I want you to consider going down that road, but you need to be ready. And sometimes winning a contract on the federal side can put you out of business. So again, want you to consider it, but I want you to get your infrastructure in place. Not wait till you win it, then you're trying to get funding so that you can make payroll. It's actually on the federal side, it's the opposite. You get as much lined up, if not all of it, then you go out and start looking for work. So again, strongly consider federal procurement. To me, that's where the major cheese is. It's like that every year, all year. How could you not want to do business with the feds? Thank you.
Well, I want to do business with the feds after you. But what I would suggest is that in addition to doing business with the feds, I strongly encourage you to just get some information on how to certify your business in the state of New Jersey. Get some information on ensuring that your business is certified ready. And get some information about how you can plan to be more of a player in your business. And one of the examples that you can do that is by being certified. So check us out at the Rutgers-Newark SBDC. We're there to help you grow your business. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, so, and we have Vanessa. Vanessa says, I'm in it to win it with government contracts. I'm with you. I'm with you, Vanessa. Love the energy. We all want a piece of that pie. All right. Okay, good. Okay, I'm an instructor. I teach cooking, sewing, and arts to kids. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you for registering, Diane. We look forward to working with you. Okay, so we're going to transition over to the marketing segment. So I would like to say thank you so much to Monica and Ginny. Oh, they're sweethearts, aren't they? Thank you for taking the time out today and answering our questions. And feel free to connect with us. They're definitely here and willing to work with you. So I guess at the end of this session, we'll transition into the marketing segment next.
Bye.
Somebody just put a thing saying, I'm an instructor. I teach cooking, sewing,
yes,
and art to kids. What are my chances?
Oh, to work with the government.
And I think the stimulus package is putting funding towards arts and culture. I think I read or heard something in the news. Everyone knows about it.
Yes.
So do the research, I would suggest, and see. You might have to work through organizations, whether they are nonprofit or for-profit arts and culture organizations, to see if you can contract directly with them, or the state, if they're getting block grants from this money, that you can provide services to them.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
All right. Thank you. Stay with us. For those that are with us, stay with us. We'll be heading into the marketing segment in a few minutes.
Interested in doing business with the government? Helping businesses. Interested in doing business with the government? Helping businesses understand and win government contracts is an essential service of the New Jersey SBDC network. Our procurement specialists can help you obtain registrations and certifications, prepare bids, and even match you with contracting opportunities from agencies that buy your goods and services. Want to learn more? Visit us online to get started on your path to success today.
Hi, my name is Jules Singletary. I graduated Rutgers University in 2005 from Livingston College. And when I finished that degree, I went on to complete a 1-year business degree from the Fashion Institute of Technology, and that started my 12-year career in corporate America. So I'm super grateful I had the opportunity to work for some major companies like JCPenney's as a business planner and financial analyst. And my last corporate gig was in 2017. I was working at Nike's sales office in Chicago, and I was laid off after 4 years. They had a major global reorganization. But I knew in my spirit that that was time for me to start my own business. So I moved to Newark, super close to Rutgers and the SBDC. And that's where I took up roots and started my business there. So I'm now the proud owner of Gratitude Griot LLC. We are a well-being-based business that specializes in teaching people how to alleviate their stress using yoga, meditation, and therapeutic art. Some of the resources that I got from the SBDC, like from the beginning, is one thing knowing how to navigate corporate America spreadsheets, doing business planning from that angle, but being able to translate that knowledge to my own entrepreneurial journey, but I knew nothing. So the SBDC has been an amazing resource, from learning how to register my business in the state of New Jersey. They helped me to register as a minority-owned, women-owned business so that I could get certain set-asides for the state and get contracting opportunities. I learned how to build an entire marketing plan and sales strategy, and got teamed up with some amazing coaches, from financial coaches to business coaches. And all of it wasn't just textbook knowledge. Like, I've been able to take this information and really run with it. As a result, from all of the foundational elements that the SBDC helped to put in place for my business, I've been awarded grants to keep my business running throughout the pandemic. I have gotten amazing contacts and networking opportunities that continue to expand our reach. And I am beyond grateful for the resources that the SBDC offers for free. So many free resources. And then there are a lot of low-cost resources that I've been able to take advantage of that have been within my budget. When anyone asks me, how do I do XYZ in business? I'm like, you need to go to your SBDC office, find them online. They are now offering all types of virtual workshops and webinars that are amazing. They have so many resources online on their websites, and there's so many offices around the country. Like, please find one near you. They are super amazing, fantastic resources. I cannot say enough how much the SBDC has helped me and my business, Gratitude Griot. And I continue to use them as a resource to this day. So happy SBDC Day. Congratulations, I guess. I don't even know what you say on a day like this, but good luck to you and continued success and helping so many more entrepreneurs, business owners. Thank you.
Okay, we're back. We're back.
Okay, so good afternoon to everyone. And to start off this digital marketing segment, I would like to introduce our Regional Director, Dr. Tendai Nduro, to say some welcoming remarks. You're muted, Dr. Nduro.
Hey, thank you. Yes, welcome to our third segment on marketing, digital marketing, with our experts, Ms. Cecilia Henderson and Ms. Cheryl McCanns, our gurus on everything marketing. And I do want to welcome everybody who is participating currently. And this is SBDC Day, where we celebrate small businesses throughout the nation. And we also celebrate America's small business development centers for the work that they do to make sure that we have successful, sustainable businesses that last forever, hopefully, and you can hand them over to your family. You can sell it, and maybe one day go IPO. So without much further ado, I just want to, I'm so proud of the number of experts that we have in different areas that a business needs. And today we have two of our marketing gurus to talk to you, and they also provide services to our clients in the SBDC. But also understand, I think some of you who have been with us since this morning are recognizing that our experts are also themselves small businesses. So they're not counseling you or advising you on theory, what you think it should be. They live this. They also go through the struggle practically and in real time. So when they are talking to you about what you need to do, they know what it takes to run a small business. So welcome, and I hand it back to you. Take over.
Thank you. So for those of you that are now joining us, and for those of you that have been here, this is a Q&A live, and we will be taking questions in 4 different ways. You can post your questions using the Q&A feature here on Zoom, which does help to remain organized in terms of having the questions and the answers in one area. But you can also raise your hands, and a button is located next to the chat icon, and we will allow you to use your microphone to ask your question live. You can also use the chat feature that's available, and those of you that are viewing or streaming on Facebook, feel free to ask your questions there as well. So the segment is called Digital Marketing, and today we have 2 experts here to answer your questions. We have Cecilia Henderson and Cheryl McCann. Cecilia and Cheryl are both consultants at the NJSBDC at Rutgers-Newark. And now, without further ado, I will turn the segment over to our experts and allow them to tell us a bit about themselves and their areas of expertise.
Cecilia, you want to go first?
Oh, sure. Thanks, Cheryl. Cecilia Henderson. I'm owner of WSI Marketing Edge, one of the small businesses. And my focus is really on helping New Jersey businesses claim and leverage their online presence. One of the big challenges that I see that businesses have is, what do I do online? And clearly with the pandemic, we know now that being online is incredibly critical. So those of us, I know Cheryl has probably experienced the same thing, people kind of rushing to get that online footprint and get that digital footprint. Well, where I come in is, well, what should that look like? Or I have a footprint and it's not doing anything for me. Or I don't have a strategy how to move forward with leveraging my website, my social media, my email. How do I pull that all together? And that's one of the things that I do. With the SBDC, I'm really pleased to work with Tendai, Tekoa, and Priscilla because I teach several classes there. One of them is around websites and social media, just an overview, just put your toe in the water and understand what it is. I also talk about, I have a class that focuses on creating your digital marketing plan. And I do a class that focuses on how to engage the ideal customer, because part of our challenge is really getting to that customer base that we need to get to. And I bring a really strong strategic marketing background to this. So segmentation, targeting, getting to that customers is really one of the things that I like to focus on with businesses. So with that, I'll turn it over to Cheryl.
Sure, thank you. So hello, everyone. So happy to be here. I am Cheryl McCann, the founder and CEO of Impact Consulting Enterprises. And the reason I'm here today is because we are all in this together. We all have to work together. And when it comes to digital marketing, as Cecilia said, we all need it. I will say, however, that you need to approach it strategically. And so what we do at Impact is we go strategy first. And when people come and say, I need to be on Facebook, I need to tweet, I need to be on Instagram, our first question is, well, why? And then we work backwards. So we start with strategy. Super excited to answer your questions here. And I would, if you take nothing away from the session today, please understand that as long as you think strategically and then prioritize and then implement and evaluate, you'll be able to assess and then put programs and processes in place that will have your digital marketing work for you, because that's the real purpose of it. So, Sequoia, it's all up to you.
Great, thank you. So now we will begin answering questions. So our first question is, I can't keep up with the recommended schedules to post on social media. Is it worth posting if I can't do that?
So I would say one of the services that we provide at Impact is social media management. And I would strongly suggest that your schedule, make sure that it's your own, and you post at the pace that is correct for you and on the channels that are appropriate for you. And if you're not going to post on a particular channel, shut it down so that you don't look like you're a dead end. So Cecilia, if you want to add to that, so I'm not sure what pace they think they need to post at, so I'll be curious to find out what pace. But my recommendation is post at your own pace, and if you're not going to post, close the channel.
Yeah, sure. I agree with exactly what you're saying. I think you can set your own pace. One of the challenges is that when you look at certain platforms like Twitter, they will say, oh, the average user posts 5 times a day, and Twitter is a platform where you can post multiple times and not beat your audience to death. Other platforms, that's not appropriate. So on LinkedIn, 5 times a day may suggest that you don't actually have a job. So you have to be very careful about how you utilize your time. But I get people coming to me and saying, I just can't do that. So, I'm going to throw my hands up in the air. And I'm saying, just like Cheryl is saying, set your own pace.
Right.
Think about it this way. I don't think anybody's sitting there with a metric saying, did, XYZ business post on Facebook 5 times a week or 4 times a week? But what is going to happen is if somebody comes to your Facebook page, if Facebook is an appropriate venue for you, they see that you are active there and they see that you're active routinely and recently. So they're not sitting there saying how many times a day. They're looking for almost, I call it a sign of life. Right. So I agree very much with Cheryl. Set your own pace, manage this tool. This is a tool for you. You're not a victim of it.
Right. And if you're not, what I will say to you is they're not going to measure how frequently you post, but if you don't post,
they'll know
they're not coming back.
Yeah.
And so if they get to your page, or if they see that you haven't posted in 9 months or 10 months, they're not going to come back, because people go to your social media for insight, and they go to your social media for guidance and to see what your thought leadership is. And if you haven't had a leading thought in 9 or 10 months, it's not worth it.
Okay, great. So we just got a question from Lisa in the chat. So Lisa is saying, we are a 53-year-old WBE printing company. Because we are printers, how do we transition to other ways of marketing to companies for new business? We are a small business, but we print for companies like universities, energy companies, advertising agencies, state and federal agencies. People are working remotely, making it difficult to mail marketing materials. I'm at a loss.
Yeah, this is really interesting because I look at that and I hear the types of customers, and you know who those customers are. You might want to consider doing some prospecting on LinkedIn, because with certain tools, you'll be able to identify people in certain companies in certain kinds of roles, and you can reach out to them using LinkedIn. So you could consider that approach. I understand what you're saying. People aren't necessarily in their office. They're often disparate locations, but having a LinkedIn presence, and I feel like I might have had a situation like that in the past where there was a publisher and they knew exactly who their target audiences were. So that, I think, is something that you ought to consider. Cheryl,
Right.
what do you?
Yeah, so to add to that, I would say they're people, right? So at the end of the day, you're looking to connect with people. And as Cecilia mentioned, LinkedIn is a great tool. And as a printer, I think what I'm hearing you say is that you traditionally mailed your materials to your prospects. I'm going to strongly suggest that people are still getting their mail. I'm going to strongly suggest that universities, colleges, utility companies, and the like that you have referenced as your clients have some mechanism in place for their remote employees to get their mail. And what you might want to do is reach out to an existing contact that you have in that space and ask him or her if they get their mail or how they're getting their mail. And then you can probably put together an email marketing campaign to reach out to your prospects to find out how they ask for their opinion. People love to give advice. So ask for their opinion, and then you might find that they'll be more receptive to you. And then there's that fine balance between email marketing and social media. We have one client that has said that they believe that Twitter is going to replace email marketing because people hate all the emails. That's a matter of opinion, and it may vary by industry. So I would strongly suggest that you leverage email marketing or maybe do a Twitter poll, but do something to engage your audience and to get their opinion so that they can see that you are listening and that you have something to say. I see a hand up over here.
I just want to add, because the client said, the guest said they do universities, and we are in a university. And one of the things that I always find people don't understand is how universities buy. In Rutgers University, it's the departments that buy the services directly, because the department and the business units have their own budgets. So if you're already doing business in a university with one department, one of the things that you could do is ask for referrals and introductions to other departments. And yes, we are not going in to pick our mail all the time at all, but we are receiving emails. So if you ask your current client or department that you're working with in that university to say, please, can you introduce me to another department who could use my printing services, or could you refer me to someone? Usually it's an introduction, and I get an email from that person who is also within the university that you have done business with. You're already verified.
Right.
And once you are in the system, you can work with any department. So think outside the box and don't be afraid to ask for referrals, for contacts, for people who are ideal to the current customers that you already have.
Yeah, Dr. Enduro, if you haven't gotten your mail since last March, I'm praying for you.
Okay, so can I say a couple of things?
We are required to sign a form to go on campus, and it's just not with the problem. So no mail, email is the way to go now.
Yes, so Lisa raised her hand, so she's going to ask her question or clarify on her question. Go ahead, Lisa.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so here's the situation. As far as asking for referrals, I'll work a little backwards. I always ask for referrals. As far as marketing materials, and now I have so many things swirling through my head here. Going after the same types of industries, well aware of, following up with people, getting their opinion on things, being contacted through LinkedIn. Here's the deal. I get so many email messages from people. I have no idea who they are, with all kinds of messages in the subject line, making me wonder, oh, do I know this person? I just forgot who they were or something, prompting me to open the email, which I don't appreciate. But you mentioned, somebody mentioned Twitter may be taking over email, because we're inundated with emails. So I can tell you, I email clients, and half the time they don't get back to me because they're busy. They don't want to be bothered. And I understand that. And I'm not going to push them to respond to something unless, of course, it's urgent.
I don't understand, Lisa. I'm not getting your question.
Okay. So, well, my question is, I understand I'm old school. I've been selling for a long time. I'm the person who would walk in the door, introduce myself, leave a card, get a person's name, get a phone number, follow up with a phone call. And it's all changed. Twitter, I get so many tweets. It's like, it's almost like email now. I get text messages on my phone. I'm like, people must be buying a mailing list with my phone number. So it just becomes more and more difficult. And I guess I'm at a loss. I'm hearing all these remedies that
So Lisa,
are out there.
take it like you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. Just take off a little bit, and you're right. What I hear is frustration, and that you can be, and it is overwhelming, and it is frustrating, and you are not alone. So what I would strongly suggest is you approach this one step at a time and see what works best for you. So you test it. Don't do email and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter all at the same time, because you'll drive yourself crazy. So I would say, just try one piece. And I'm old school too, right? See the grades. So I would say just come slowly into the digital space, into the digital age, and try one thing at a time. Cecilia, do you have any suggestions?
No, I would agree with you. Just because there are all these channels to reach people doesn't mean you have to use them. So one of the other things is that you might take some trusted clients that you do have, if you can get them to talk to you for a few minutes about what they feel is really effective at reaching them. The other piece is making sure that what you do have out there is of value to them. I mean, there's a lot of transactional communication that goes on, but when we start to try to build relationships, we're adding value, we're adding content, we're increasing their understanding, we're trying to increase their capability to do business even. The question is, what's the right venue for that? So like Cheryl says, pick one, try it. If that works, you might want to add another one. If it doesn't work, dispense with that and go to the next thing, because it is overwhelming. But again, just because Twitter's out there doesn't mean that Twitter must be happening.
Right, not everybody needs to tweet.
Mhm.
Not everybody needs to post, and you have to go where your audience is. And at the end of the day, as Dr. Ndoro said, Rutgers University, they are very decentralized, right? So you have to understand your particular client, know where they are, where do they live online, and how can you add value? And so that is probably the most critical question that you need to ask yourself. Is what you're doing of value to your prospects? If not, why not? If yes, why?
And I think what I'm also hearing is, your services might, because people have gone digital, the actual printing, like we stopped completely doing brochures, paper stock, collateral, etc. Start thinking, what else can I be doing in my business and offer as a service in the supply chain of what you do as a printer? So I'm assuming as a printer, you offer graphic design, graphic services. Start offering graphic design services. And I'm also thinking, as a small business, I might need electronic letterheads so that my company continues having a certain look. And so I need a template that has my letterhead, my information, where it's no longer a paper letterhead that I print and mail out, but it's a letterhead that I actually type in directly, and I send it out to everyone, and I still have, and I can sign with a digital signature that you might create for me through your digital graphic services, and I can send it out and still be able to communicate electronically as I would with a hard copy. So start thinking of all the supply chain services that help you get to actually printing, and segment them into their own individual services that you could sell and generate income from other areas, and start marketing that as, that's pivoting. Start marketing that as other services you offer outside of the traditional hard stock printing business that you have.
Thank you for a great idea.
Okay, thank you, Lisa, for your question. So we have a question in the Q&A chat feature from Denise. Denise is asking, how do you find the best hashtags for your target audience?
That's always a good one. So I just want to say hashtags are interesting because really they are an organizing tool for a given platform. So in other words, you're assuming to a certain extent that somebody is going to search for what you've put associated with that hashtag using a hashtag. So it's a searching tool. How do you find the most appropriate one? I don't really feel like there's a science, but I can tell you that before you use a hashtag, you had better enter that hashtag in and see what comes up, because you might be very surprised to find that the things that you think when you associate something with a given hashtag are not the things that somebody else is thinking. And there's a story that I'd like to tell about the Vatican doing I guess they made a whole bunch of people saints. And so the Pope tweeted out, "Go Saints," and a whole bunch of people responded back saying, "Who dat?" which is New Orleans Saints.
Right.
So those Saints was actually something that had already been camped on by somebody else. So this is why I'm saying check and make sure. So there's that first thing of thinking about the topics of interest that people might be searching for, thinking about, the attributes that are associated with your product that people might be searching for, and then making sure that you understand what is there before you start to use them. The other piece is looking at the volume of hashtag usage. If you are going to use a hashtag and it's got 3 million uses, what that means is that in hashtag world, your post is going to be at the top of the screen for about 2 seconds before it falls off the bottom of the screen. So think of hashtags as that the next person that uses your hashtag is going to go in right on top of you and push you down, if you know what I mean. So you want a mix of these very popular hashtags with some that are more like an SEO, a long tail keyword, something a little bit more descriptive, but still close to your business. So I don't feel like there's a science to it. Cheryl may have more, but I just had done a whole bunch of research on this for a particular client, and they were obsessed with using certain hashtags, and I needed to talk them out of it, essentially.
Right. No, you're absolutely right, Cecilia. I think there is, you could call it a science, but there's a methodology to hashtags. So you clearly need to do your research so that when you do say, Go Saints, we know who that, and we know that means I'm a big football fan, so I'm all over that, right? I would also suggest, however, that you spend some time researching. I'm going to put in the chat here. This is a free keyword finder. And as Cecilia mentioned, you want to look at long tail keywords, short tail keywords. However, you do not want to have a message that says, hashtag good morning. We're here to wish you a hashtag great, hashtag day, as we celebrate hashtag Women's History Month, right? So you want to be careful about how frequently you embed hashtags in your messages. We also have a client who gave us a list of 30 plus hashtags that they wanted us to use in all of their messaging. And hashtags are search tools. Hashtags are designed for people to be able to identify and gather information based off of a particular topic. So one school of thought is you create your message and then you go in and comment on it with a hashtag. So that way, people, when they search the hashtag, they'll actually find your message, and the hashtag doesn't take away from the character count of the message that you're looking to share. You want to be careful that the hashtag is not too long. Hashtag let's all celebrate SBDC Day in New Jersey on today. That's too long, right? So you want to create hashtags and test them. Everything is about the data. It's all about the numbers and the data, and you have to measure the effectiveness of what it is that you're using. So if you find out that we use the hashtag make an impact, right? Because we're at Impact Consulting, we believe in impactful marketing, and we've done some research that hashtag make an impact usually has positive stories associated with it. So we're not going to find ourselves in trouble with other data that we might not want to associate with ourselves. So do your research, test it, check it, do some long tail keyword searches, and figure out what works for you.
Okay, great. So our next question is, how do I measure my business's marketing success?
How do you measure the success?
Yes, of your business, social media marketing.
Are you making money? So that's going to be, you know, my response. So at the end of the day, even if you are a nonprofit, we are all here to generate more revenue than we have expenses, or at least try to break even. So you want to track what you're doing. Every marketing campaign that you implement is measurable. Digital marketing makes marketing more measurable now than ever before. People used to say, oh, public relations, you can't measure. Marketing, you can't measure. That is so not true. You can see how many people come to a website, look at a tweet, share a post. You can track engagement. You can figure out where those people come from. You can even do heat maps on your websites to see, you know, what part of the website they find more attractive or less attractive than others. And you gotta, numbers matter. And as business owners, small or large, the thing that you have to always remember is to count what you're doing and measure the effectiveness. If you've got a campaign and if you're doing something and say you run an Instagram campaign, but nobody participates, clearly that ain't working. So you need to figure out, is Instagram the platform for you? Have you built up enough following? You know, who are you going after? If you do A/B testing, change a picture, change a headline, you know, do something to measure. But the way to determine the effectiveness of anything that you do is to see what the numbers say. Cecilia?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. One of the things that I think of, you know, you're talking about analytics. There are these things called vanity analytics, like how many followers do you have on Instagram? It's a great metric, but ultimately, if you have 1,000 followers, that's great. Maybe you don't have 1,000 of the right followers. It may be better to have 200 of the right followers than 1,000 of people who don't care. So that's why I think Cheryl started with, are you making money? Because ultimately, the ultimate metric is, was there a conversion? So you will sometimes have situations where your numbers, some of those metrics just aren't that striking, but in the end, you may get the 3 or 4 people that convert. These are the people that buy the thing, and those are the people that really matter. So I would just say, be very careful about getting so caught up in number land and leaving behind your ultimate metric, which is your revenue target.
Right. And like Cecilia mentioned, be cognizant of vanity metrics, right? So I always joke and say one of my first followers was my mother, which is really nice, right? But she's not my target audience. So it's really about engagement. And you need to also be reasonable. So we all know what SMART goals are, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time bound. I'm going to suggest you create SMART T goals. Make sure they are also inclusive and make sure they are equitable. So that when you are putting your plans together, you are ensuring that your goals are going to reach diverse audiences and that you're going to be able to connect and communicate to everyone that is part of your buying persona. So as you are tracking, followers don't matter, engagement does. Also understand that engagement on Twitter is very different than engagement on Facebook, you know, and Twitter, now I'm going to date myself, right? But remember back in the day at the TV screen, you used to have the stock market ticker tape run across the TV. So I know, Sequoia, do you remember that? You're probably too young.
I do.
Oh, wow. Okay, good. So, you know, Twitter is like that ticker. And so it's running. So people will see your tweet. They might retweet it. They might not. So, however, on a Facebook platform, there's a greater probability of somebody sharing or liking. And know that if people take the time to either celebrate or like, that's important because we are all very, very busy. And the fact that they've stopped to show some level of engagement, that matters much more so than how many people are following you.
Okay. Our next question is, how often should I update my website, write a blog, or post on social media?
Cecilia?
No. The first thing is that you should update your website, you should post on social media, and you should have a blog. Now, how often, remember that whole discussion we had earlier about, making a schedule that works for you? That's where you kind of apply your marketing magic or your organizational capabilities. Because remember, with scarce resources, if you're doing this, you're not doing something else.
Right.
Even if you
Right.
outsource it, if you're spending it on this, you're not spending it on something else.
Right.
What we know is that if you don't update your website gets stale, and suddenly it starts to perhaps lose a little of its SEO juice. What we know, again, you heard that whole example of, let's not have a social media site that you were posting on and then you haven't touched it for 6 months. So it's very hard to just say, oh, it should be monthly. There are people who blog weekly. There are people who blog daily. They just have that capability. You have to decide what is yours.
Right. So definitely. So an important point is regarding SEO. So as it relates to your website, and Google is, I'm going to say the queen, not the king. So Google is the queen of SEO traffic measuring and monitoring. And so your site will drop in Google rankings if you don't update something on the site on a regular basis. They look to make sure that it is current. I would say when you have a new product or service, you should update your website. You should blog about it and you should post about it. So if you are looking to find the right cadence or the right frequency, it would depend on the business that you're in. So here at Impact, we provide marketing services. We write for our clients. We blog for them. We create their social posts, and we also update their website. It's what we do because we are a marketing communications company. If you are manufacturing widgets and you have a new widget, talk about it, share it, post a picture of it. So you might not write a blog, but you might post a picture. So the frequency and the type of media that you're going to share will vary dependent upon the market that you're in and the content that you are producing.
I think that's a great point, Cheryl. If you want references, take a look at several of your competitors and see what they are doing. But do not let that drive you crazy.
Right.
That's all
Right.
I'm going to say.
Okay, and I do see that Dr. Enduro did place in the chat a very important resource so that you can locate or find any errors on the back end of your website. So please look at that when you can. Okay, our next question is, how can my company most benefit from using digital marketing, especially now during these times of uncertainty?
How can the company most benefit from using digital marketing? What a great question. What I would say is that keep in mind that digital is the current channel that we use for marketing. Marketing has always been around, and whether it was initially word of mouth, newspapers, then magazines, television, radio, and with the advent of what I originally used to call the information superhighway, which we've renamed the internet. And so now when you have technology, as technology evolves, so will your marketing. So don't be overwhelmed or afraid of the term digital marketing. You're going to take your marketing strategy, figure out who your audience is, figure out where they are, and then give it to them. So how would you market on radio? Radio is now online. You still need a voice. You still need words. How do you market on television? Television's online. You still need people. You still need words. You still need pictures. How are you going to market from a printing perspective? You still need graphics and imagery. So don't be intimidated by the word digital. Just consider it marketing and then identify the appropriate channel for you to use to reach your customers.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, in a sense, your marketing, when you market, you want to be where people are. And what's happened with the pandemic, a lot of people have gone online. I mean, social media usage has shot through the roof. People who did not know how to turn their laptops on are now on Zoom meetings all the time. So online shopping, all of that is highly relevant. And so, without knowing exactly what your business is, I'll echo what Cheryl has said, understand who your target audience is and where they are. That's where you need to be.
We do have a chat. I'm just backtracking a bit. We had a question from Diane. Diane's asking, what are your thoughts about email marketing?
I think we talked about that
We did?
a little bit. Yeah. So, when we shared the fact that email marketing, you want to balance it out against social media. What I would add to that conversation, and Cecilia, feel free to jump in, is when it comes to email marketing, this is where good old-fashioned copywriting and copy editors come into play. And so when you think about jingles and taglines and things that are memorable, if I were to say, just do it, y'all would know that I'm talking about Nike, right? So that's their tagline. So it's very important that as you are crafting email messages, that the subject line be enticing, encouraging, captivating, because you need people to open the email. The challenge that you'll find a lot of the time nowadays is that people, like me included, I have Outlook, and so I can screen the first 2 or 3 lines of an email message, so I don't even open it. And then if you don't open it, you get dinged by your customer relationship management tool, your CRM tool, as having a low open rate. So you've got to find the right balance of getting an encouraging subject line, something that's going to get people to click, and they have to open your email so that you don't eventually be included or identified as spam. Right. Cecilia, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think there are some studies that talk about how effective email marketing is from a cost effectiveness standpoint. I actually have not seen those numbers in real life, but I think part of it is because when you, I'm sorry, I was distracted by something I saw in the chat. But part of it is because, email marketing is relatively inexpensive, and it does get you in front of people, and it can get you in front of many people. One thing I would say, though, is be careful how you build your list. Email marketing, I have run into folks who will ask, oh, I can buy these emails. Can I use them? Can I just start marketing to them? And the answer to that is actually no. People have to, in some way, agree to get your email. So you do want to use an email marketing tool. You don't want to be using Gmail to email to your list of 1,000 people. This is not the way to go. You should use Constant Contact, Active Campaign, MailChimp, anything out there that will allow you to send properly. But again, not in an unsolicited way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And use more images. And when you are sending that email marketing, test it. Do some A/B testing. Only change one thing though. Like, don't change the picture and the subject line and the copy, because then you won't be able to measure the effectiveness of what is and what is not working.
Right.
I just wanted to add that with cybersecurity, with email campaign, you really have to be very thoughtful as a small business, because even if you're using an email campaign platform, your business, your email coming from Gmail, Yahoo, and not your business email could be suspect. The other thing is, if you are going to embed links in that content, and with cybersecurity issues, people are so scared of clicking on links that will bring malware into their hardware. Make sure you have described what that link is and where it's gonna lead and what it's about. So your content communication has to be on point to make sure that people are going to say, well, I'm not clicking on this link because it's gonna bring malware into my, or it's gonna compromise my security into my hardware. So there's a whole, and that's why it's always important to work with companies and with people who are sophisticated at doing this, because trust is a huge issue in digital communication.
And we do have a follow-up question. I think it was based on what you had spoken about, Cheryl. Martina is asking, what are funnels?
Well, a funnel is exactly that, right? A funnel. And so it's where you start big and end up small, where you identify who it is. Like my mother was in my beginning funnel, but my mother doesn't buy from me. So when you have a funnel, you are looking at your prospects. You are looking at, you need to, again, have a strategy. As Cecilia and I have said throughout this hour, it's important that you approach your marketing strategically. And so you have a funnel where you start with the widest breadth. Think of it like a mosquito net, right? And mosquitoes. So, you want to capture as much as you can, and then you want to narrow it down. You want to make sure that you are looking at one product or service, one specific audience member or not. Don't try to be all things to all people at the same time, so that you can eventually have it drop down to where you've got that 2 or 3 individuals who are buying your products and services, and then you'll know what works. So your funnel is a virtual visualization of how you are going to narrow down the larger prospect to the buyer, right? Cecilia, your thoughts?
Yeah, very much the case. I always think of, like, they have a term called AIDA or AIDA, I don't know. At the very top, you have this whole group of people. They're kind of strangers, but they may in fact be aware of your product. Then you have a subset of those people who might actually have an interest in your product. Then there are these people who, I'm interested in it, now I actually really want it. And they engage in a group of behaviors that will indicate that they're really desiring your product. And at the end, there are the actors, the people who buy. Those are the people that you're trying to get to. So obviously you're narrowing down as you go through that. The other thing is that when you're putting together your programs and your campaigns, you may be pitching content to various points in that buyer journey, from basic awareness down to real interest and action. And at the real bottom of the funnel are your recommenders, the people who will go out and proselytize about your business and say, you really need to go and work with Cheryl because she's the greatest. So that's, yeah, there you go. So, and I think about the funnel much. I mean, think about it like when you're buying what they call a considered purchase, a high value purchase, like a car. That's where you begin to see, you think about your process that you use when you're buying a car, because it's, several, tens of thousands of dollars or whatever it is. So you're going to think about that, and you're going to go through a process. And so at the very end, you're left with the people who decide to buy this brand of car. All right.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And now here's going to be a shameless plug. And Dr. Enduro did not pay me to say this, but I saw somebody put in the chat, where can you go to learn about this? Right here. Yeah. So the Small Business Development Centers of New Jersey, especially the Rutgers-Newark branch, because we are the best, and I know it's SBDC Day. However, there are a series of free and very low-cost courses. Cecilia teaches several, I teach several. There are other consultants that teach them as well. So anyone who is looking to gather more information about digital marketing and what we are talking about, there are free mini webinars, and then there are very low cost full day webinars where you all can get more, do a deep dive is what we call it, right? So you can take a deep dive. And so I would say go to that website that I see on their screens, the rnsbdc.com. There's a button there, if I remember correctly, that says training or events or something like that. Click on it, look for Cecilia or Cheryl, sign up for our classes, and you will be certain to get access to some of the best digital marketing tips that we have. Okay.
Yes. And we are a bit running out of time, but we do have a question from Facebook. Tesha is asking, how soon in advance should you begin to market a new product, such as a book?
How soon in advance? I would say that it depends on what your marketing goals are. So now with COVID, you used to look for book tours, right? So now there's virtual book tours. So you have to look at the vehicle that you're looking to leverage. If you're looking for a long lead pickup, you need to start that plan sometimes 9 to 12 months in advance. If you're looking to get a segment on a podcast, you need to find out what their production schedule is. If you're looking to solicit pre-sales, then you want to do that before the book is published. If you're looking to get early bird sales and you're sharing that on social, is it news? If it's news, it's happening now. If it's an update, it's already happened. So I would say you need to strategically think about the various tools that you're going to use to market that book and who the audience is. And then each one of those tools has its own timeline associated with it.
Mhm.
Great. So we do have a question from Diane. She said the question is really about marketing funnels. I have attended some of them, yet they seem out of order for me. An email marketing list. I don't have a website and was told by one in marketing I don't need one and I can just do a landing page. Can someone explain the purpose of landing pages and can I use them versus a website?
Okay, now we know what you're talking about. I think you're talking about this, like a ClickFunnels kind of environment where, you've got an offer. I mean, it's almost like, here's the thing, a funnel is usually designed to try to get to a sale. And what they're trying to do is to get a, how can I put it? You get a person to express interest by downloading a white paper. And then before they leave, you say, but wait, for $10, you can buy this. And then they, ideally would buy that. And then, but wait, for $50, you can buy this. And they start bringing you further and further in to do this. It is kind of a proven way to work, but it really depends on your category. And I know people have had mixed experiences. What I would say though is that if you're running a business and it's not a one product thing, your funnel is not a place to tell a story or give a background or create a relationship. And that's something that your website in conjunction with your social media presence can do for you that a funnel really can't. Funnels are very focused on a thing, and just understand that. Now, if you don't need or want that relationship and you're not going to create continued activity from a person, maybe you could go that route. But I would hesitate to say you don't need a website or a more permanent type of footprint if you're running a business. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, so to build on what Cecilia said, a landing page, let's not forget, it's online, right? And so some people use landing pages instead of a full multi-page website. However, if you've got a one and done, right? And if it's a simple message and you don't really need to explain it, I'm looking to sell this plastic spoon. And so we all know what plastic spoons are used. Well, we don't know what they're used for, but we all know what a plastic spoon is. So if it's a product or a service that doesn't require a lot of background, a lot of explanation, and it's something you want to think about it almost from a retail perspective. We all know that in the retail industry, there's typically a 300 to 400% markup on the cost of the item. And that's why you can see the retailers have their one-day sale, right? And so it's the one day this week that we're going to have this sale. And that's why they can have such huge markdowns. And so in your funnel, if you're going to offer me my spoon for $1, but by the 5th time I go to leave your website, it now only costs me $0.25, right? So you want to make sure you have enough markup in your product, there's enough margin there, and that, as Cecilia mentioned, you don't need a long-term relationship with the end user. They're just there to come, get that item, and then leave.
Yeah, one thing that I would say too, to build on what Cheryl has said, is that I've created websites where, as I told you, I'm focused on telling that story. But the services themselves, if you click on a service page, it may in fact be capable of being a landing page. You know, it's got the contact us form. A transaction can be conducted directly from that page, but it's part of a whole picture for somebody who has multiple services or multiple product lines that they want to feature. So I just think that a landing page is supposed to be very focused. In perfect world, a landing page does not go anyplace else on your website. It's like a cattle chute. You go to the landing page, you can't go anyplace else. And the reason for that is that if they've clicked on the ad that took them there, then you don't want to distract them by giving them the opportunity to go elsewhere. So we're not being nice, and we're not saying, oh, you might as well put it there so they can go visit that. No, 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 no. You're very focused. You've made the choice that this is important enough for you to try to force their activity on that one account.
Okay, and that's all the time that we have today. Thank you so much, Cecilia and Cheryl, as well as to Dr. Enduro for sharing your expertise and answering these questions. And a thank you to all of our participants for asking your questions. We really do appreciate it. And for those of you that still have questions based on this topic, I'm going to insert into the chat right now our website where you can request counseling, and you can ask those questions and we will get those answered to you.
Wonderful. Thank you. And everybody have a fabulous rest of the day.
Same here. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so just to transition over, we will be having our next segment, which is actually procurement. So you're able to feel free to stay on to the Zoom Live as we transition over, or you can join back at the time of another segment. So just to briefly remind you of the schedule for today, we have our procurement from 12 to 1. We have our international trade and manufacturing from 1 to 2. We have cybersecurity and e-commerce from 2 to 3. And lastly, we have credit and capital and finance from 3 to 4. So again, thank you to our experts, and we will now transition into procurement.
Actually, international trade.
International trade and manufacturing, my apologies.
No problem.
Thinking about turning your dream into a reality? The New Jersey SBDC Network can help. We provide startup and planning training services, tools and resources to help evaluate your business idea, help you make sound business decisions, and pursue your dream of business ownership. It's important to note that we do not provide grants or loans. However, we provide information and technical assistance on how to access capital. Sound like you're in the right place? Great. The next step is to visit us online to get started on your path to success today.